thanks to HR Tech Alliances. So this is SMBs using programmatic ATSs for hyper local recruitment. We have a crackerjack, if you will, cavalcade of experts that we're bringing on the show. Hopefully they're all on. I don't see their faces. I just see mine. So we're going to just go with it. We're going in alphabetical order so we don't offend anybody. And they're going to give a quick little bio of themselves. Quickly about me, I'm here probably because I have a popular podcast within the industry. That would be the Chad and Cheese podcast. If you aren't listening, I encourage you to check us out at chadcheese.com. Other than that, I've been in the industry for a long time and have been pontificating and giving opinions for decades now. So that's me. Let's go to the panel, the real stars of the show. ROBERTO ANGULO is the first panelist. Is he here?
I'm here. Hey, Joel.
Great.
How's it going?
Excellent.
So my name's Roberto Angulo. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Recruitology. We're democratizing access to talent for employers large and small, and we're doing it through a series of tools ranging from programmatic job advertising to virtual career fairs and diversity and inclusion products. That's my Twitter bio, Joel.
And you're great friends with Elon Musk, right? Hung out with him in college.
He started his first company out of my dorm room back when I was a junior.
There you go. There you go. Fantastic. Thanks for being here, Roberto. Number two is Peter CARR. Peter, are you there?
I am here. Thanks, Joel. I'm not friends with Elon Musk, but I am friends with Joe Shaker. If that,
Enough said. Enough said.
Even better.
And that being said, I'm Vice President of Client Services here at Shaker Recruitment Marketing. I'm here. I've been in the business for nearly 30 years. I've seen how it has evolved. So looking forward to sharing some of that experience and perspective today.
Cubs or White Sox?
I'm a Cub fan.
Okay, that must be why you stay employed at Shaker.
Yeah, Joe is a Cub fan, and he will root against the Sox. That is the one thing I won't do. If the Sox aren't playing the Cubs, I don't root against them. So
I got to ask, John Cusack was recently revealed at a White Sox game. He's a historically big Cubs fan.
Right.
Did you see this, and do you have an opinion?
I did not see it. And whoever's playing in October, you gotta go.
Bandwagon fan. Okay, let's go to CARRIE CORBIN, a big sports fan as well. CARRIE, are you there?
I am, and yes, all those college football Sooners took out Texas, even though I live in Dallas, so horns down. But
great game this weekend, by the way.
It was a nail biter.
Jesus.
Better than the 4 overtimes we had last year. But I'm CARRIE CORBIN. I'm basically 20+ year veteran, TA veteran. I've been on the practitioner side for the majority of my career, and recently transitioned to the dark side, to the vendor side, about 2 years ago, and co-founded Hopefully Marketing, which is a recruitment marketing media agency. So we kind of hang out in the same spaces that Joe does and Peter, and but big fans of programmatic, and always love to talk about kind of some of the challenges in the industry and how we can help.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here. Next up, we have the lead of the Alan Parsons project. Just kidding. TRACEY Parsons. Grace, I know that joke. I heard it earlier today. Yeah.
That never gets old. That joke never gets old. So yeah, TRACEY Parsons. I am the founder of Parsons Strategic Consulting as well as WorkDrive. My agency is slightly different from CARRIE's. We channel the voice of the candidate into all of our recruitment marketing because we just want to make this a better relationship between talent and employers.
And is that the WorkDrive IT department behind you?
That is part of the WorkDrive IT department. Wait till the canine goes walking through. It's great. I know everybody's really cute and clever with their backgrounds. This is how we are. This is who we are. You get what you pay for today.
Love it. That's how we roll. All right. Next up, last but not least, we have Mike PAULETICH. Is Mike there?
Yeah, I'm here, Joel. Nice microphone. I like that.
You have envy, don't you?
I do. I have
Microphone
mic envy.
It's okay.
Mic envy. I'm Mike PAULETICH. I'm Vice President of Corporate Development and Strategy at Recruitology, and I've been almost rival Peter's 30 years. I've been 28 years in the space, started in recruitment marketing, and have been in recruitment tech for the last 15.
30 years. Wow, Peter, you don't look a day over 29. So good for you. The industry is good to you. The industry is good to you. All right, guys, let's get to the content, what everybody's waiting for. So content today is SMBs using programmatic ATSs for hyper-local recruitment. And I thought it was important for the audience that maybe younger folks or new to the industry. I wanted to sort of set the table of what this kind of recruiting, the hyper-local, high turnover look like back in the day. Peter, as the old grizzled vet of the group here, volunteered to give us sort of a historical perspective of how high frequency hiring used to happen.
Well, again, I've been in the business for nearly 30 years. So I have actually only been in the business for 28, but I didn't want to give a specific number. I wanted to keep people guessing. I've worked with many high volume hourly employers over the years in retail, warehouse, restaurant, and from strictly an advertising standpoint, really the industry has followed the job seeker every step of the way. So back in from the 50s until when I got in early 90s, really advertising was primarily done in the newspaper channel. I mean, it was really one of the only things out there. I mean, that's what people did. People went to the classified sections to look for jobs. In the mid 90s, job boards became the kind of go-to channel and to reach job seekers, and it was less expensive, longer run dates, more reach, and so forth. But really, the landscape really started to change after that, and it started focusing more on performance-based channels like search engine marketing, and even the aggregators like Indeed became very popular. But today, job seekers have so many more options to consider when searching for jobs, and the industry has followed that, and the industry has shifted really heavily towards programmatic-based advertising, both job distribution and display. So, and from a job distribution standpoint, really programmatic has been able to address a lot of the shared inefficiencies of the other advertising strategies, spend, flexibility, workflow. But really today, employers need to be very strategic about how they're placing their advertising and making sure their dollars are being spent efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, and
Peter,
I think important Go
Sorry,
ahead,
Joel, I actually have an artifact from the 1770s of a newspaper ad of a wig maker hiring an apprentice. So it
didn't start in the 50s. See, I
yeah,
thought
it did not.
everything started in
1700s. I often joke, it used to be a help wanted ad. It actually used to be a conversation in church that, hey, I'm hiring an apprentice. Does your kid want to work here? And we just keep getting farther and farther away from the relationship.
Yeah, the help wanted sign has just moved on to the digital landscape. And I think it's important to note from a job seeker's perspective, in the old days of going down to Kinko's and having a cover letter and FedExing something to an employer, the tools have become so efficient now that you can shotgun your resume to everybody, which I think is sort of led to how do we become more efficient? How do we become smarter? How do we deal with the fire hose much better than we have in the past? And that's some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. So hourly has overtaken salaried jobs as a predominant job type. 59% of US workers are paid hourly. Roberto, you wanted to chime in regards to what technology and service providers are doing now to help help the sector manage all this hourly hiring?
Yeah, so I'll quickly talk about what we're doing without kind of making it too much of a pitch. But one thing that we figured out at Recruitology early on, we started working with reseller partners that were selling jobs into actually a site that I had started before Recruitology, which was After College. So After College, network for college students and recent grads, we were getting a lot of jobs coming in from local media like the Houston Chronicle, SF Gate, employers that were advertising on the print or also in the digital version of the paper. And then they started asking, hey, can you help us get access to other types of audiences like, healthcare professionals, veterans. So what that sort of gave us the idea is of like, hey, there seems to be this sort of lack of a one-stop shop where an employer can go to one place and get access to the candidates that they want to reach. As Peter said, candidates are in different job boards. How do we help make that easy? And there's tools in the market that help do that for large employers, but not for kind of the small SMBs, right? The smaller employer, just, Jane's auto care shop, they're focused on fixing cars. Like they're not focused on hiring people. And when they need people, they're scrambling. So I think, we're kind of a bunch of kind of mission-driven folks. And to us, what's exciting is helping sort of the little guys figure out how to hire the people they need without them having to think about what to do. So we kind of take care of the how, and I can go at a deeper level later, but I think there's there's a lot of room for improvement and innovation in helping these small employers who make up the majority of the employers in the US hire efficiently, but doing it in a way where they can keep focused on their business, which is what they want to do. And you just basically take care of everything else for them. And ATSs are doing that, right? But there's a lot of things that go into hiring. There's sourcing, there's screening, there's job distribution, there's background checks and reference checks. I think there's a lot of room for growth in this industry where you just kind of make it set it and forget it for the small business owner, so they can just focus on their day-to-day.
Hey, Roberto, for some of the audience, now we have a broad range of experience. How do you define programmatic? And if anyone has a differing definition, feel free to chime in.
So for me, programmatic is there's two types, right? There's programmatic job distribution, but there's programmatic bidding. So the way we do it is we do automatic job distribution, but we're also doing the automatic sort of bidding up and down and the decision making of where to take a posting down, where to put it up again, and where to increase or decrease the budget. So at a high level for us, programmatic is automatic job distribution, intelligent job distribution based on predictive analytics, saying a job like this, how did it perform in the past? Let's put it here earnestly, but also let's put it everywhere else. And then based on how it's going, let's immediately adjust. So it's a combination of distribution, but also bid adjustment during the whole life of that posting.
So from a user's perspective and a historical perspective, I don't need to go to 8 different job boards, get the dog and pony show, find out what their deal is. I can go to one place, put my job ad, and you guys with the robots and the brains and everything else will distribute the job and give me the most efficient, effective results possible. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. That's how we've done it and how we see the world. I know larger employers want to have more control over where the budget is spent and where the postings go. In our view, you should just be able to take your jobs and automatically have them distributed, like you said, by the robots. And at the end, you get a result back, or you get a list of candidates back.
Okay.
And
Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, this is Carrie. I'll jump in. So I think because I came from such large business, right? I think we tend to think that, oh, everybody uses the same tools we do. And, so that's been really the interesting thing for my journey, is realizing how many people are, how many companies are still in what we've always kind of termed the post and pray model, right? And we just post our jobs to several different job boards and pray people apply. And then what they've done is, with the advent of like just the job distribution tools and job aggregators, is they've evolved post and spray, right? But that's volume and that's not optimization. And the problem, which was kind of alluded to just a minute ago, right, is that volume can actually have the reverse effect, and it can bog recruiters down, and it can make them more inefficient if they're trying to weed through a bunch of unqualified applicants. So I think that's the way I like to kind of share with people, is that programmatic helps you spray but optimize, or to Roberto's point, it's that intelligent optimization, to help you make sure you're getting results. And I relate it to a mutual fund or a 401k, where I'm putting my money in one place, but I have a fund manager or a tool that's optimizing my spend within that fund to ensure I get the results. And that being is kind of essentially how programmatic works, and that tends to kind of drive it home a little bit for some of our clients.
Yeah, and I mean, more is not better when it comes to applications. It doesn't always mean better, and that's what I love about programmatic. It's about understanding the habits of the job seeker and putting the media where they're most likely to bite, and putting it in front of the eyeballs that are going to be the most compelled by the opportunity. And because if you get too many, then you just create a whole lot of sad people who get dispositioned.
And we don't like sad people, do we, Tracy?
No, sad people are fewer sad people.
That's right. That's right. Peter, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, also from an efficiency standpoint, and making sure that you're allocating the resources to those job recs that need it the most, because programmatic is rules based. Those things are, you figure up front with your clients, and you're able to establish parameters where, from a spending standpoint and also from a performance standpoint, to stretch that dollar that much further.
Gotcha. So I think when people think about this, it's complicated. I got to be a big company. I have to have a big department, but that's not the case. Small businesses are taking advantage of this technology in really unique ways. And I know Roberto and CARRIE have some commentary on that. CARRIE, do you want to go first on that? And you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, I mean, I think understanding and awareness of what it is the first thing. And we kind of already addressed that, right? But how it differs from the current tools in the market. I think in some cases it can be cost prohibitive for some smaller companies, for sure. And that's where, working with an agency partner can certainly be helpful, because we can help vet the different tools and technologies out there for you. For our clients, we generally recommend the starting point for companies who are spending, or who can spend, at least 30,000 a year, 30 to 50, on job advertising, which, equates to about $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Right. And, and it's ironic that I think Roberto brought up, or Peter, I'm not sure, brought up the, auto repair. Like, that's actually one of our more successful clients this last year, with watching what's happened with the market. All they were doing was just posting on Indeed, and suddenly, they had all these needs as they were starting to grow, and the market's tanking, and putting programmatic in place. And we actually did some jobs to a landing page just to get it as quick as possible and let recruiters work those leads. And then we drove some of it directly to the ATS. It's been super, super successful. And we had predicted a cost per application goal, and we've blown that out of the water and have kept it low, even with September tanking last month, right? So it's like, and they didn't know what they didn't know, right? And so we've been able to kind of come in and help them put tie it up and just put a strategy around it, so that it frees them up to actually just work their recs and take care of the candidate.
Cool.
Roberto, do you want to chime in there?
Yeah. So yeah, CARRIE. Yeah, I mentioned the auto repair, sort of the mechanics. We see those jobs as well, right? So we're seeing sort of the in-store, sort of these occupations like healthcare, food service, retail, that have the big demand for talent, right? On the SMB front. What we've done is we've basically gone to where these local employers are, and that's basically what. And the employers typically, I mean, they range from having basically 1 to 3 hires a year to up to hundreds of hires a year. But what's interesting is the small ones, because we just go to where they are, and a lot of these folks, we mentioned newspapers and print media. So print media has evolved into digital media, and there's still sort of this brand affinity. So employers, when they need to hire and they haven't done it often, they'll think, where can I hire that engineer, right? And they might think, okay, if I'm in New Orleans, they'll go to NOLA.com, or they'll go to NJ.com if they're in New Jersey, or Oregon Live. So we've basically plugged into these sites. We productize programmatic so that they're posting on those job boards. They post a job like they would post anywhere else. We're not even mentioning programmatic. We're just saying, hey, post here, and then automatically your job's going to go to top sites, including sites like Indeed, Craigslist, et cetera. And they're posting, and so we're basically administering like these kind of tiny budgets of maybe $100 per posting to $200 per posting, but we're doing it in high volume because we're doing it for a lot of employers. So it's like kind of low volume grouped into high volume for tens of thousands of employers. And the employers just think they're posting locally, but they're getting programmatic behind the scenes.
So real quickly, I don't know if someone's typing or doing something, but we can definitely hear. So mute yourself if you need to do that. Otherwise, it's distracting. So I think that's an important point, Roberto. So in the old days, like, one of the things I first learned was all jobs are local, right? 85% of jobs are within 10 miles of your home, or that's where people want to work. And I think in a work from home world, in a knowledge base, like I can work from anywhere, these small businesses really want to get people that are close to them. And what you mentioned of, the old days of like, hey, I'm in the local paper, or hey, I'm marketing on ToledoJobs.com, so I know all my job seekers are from Toledo. Programmatic, it sounds really expansive, but you can really drill down to a specific audience locally, correct?
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about, sites. I mean, Facebook, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all these sites, they allow you to target locally, or just it's the nature of the site because people are searching locally. So with programmatic, employers can basically post locally to local sites, but then they can distribute to national sites where they have local audiences searching, right? So the beauty of programmatic is you just get the jobs everywhere. And like CARRIE mentioned, you got to make sure you're optimizing for quality. So one of the things that good programmatic will do is not only will it look at, hey, how much am I paying per click, but how much what's the quality of what's the relevancy of the applicant compared to the job description that's been posted. So without getting too technical, that's something that we do as well. Like we're basically parsing resume data when we're hosting the apply, which we can for SMBs because a lot of them don't even have an ATS. So we can basically say, okay, hey, this is the job, this is the applicant. Are they, okay, so are they great? Are they good or great? And anything that's good or great for us, cost per click doesn't matter, as long as the quality is there, right? But yeah, programmatic is awesome, just because you get everywhere.
Yep. So
I want to mention.
Go ahead, Carrie.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I want to mention one other thing too, because I made the 401k analogy. The other nice thing about programmatic is that you can turn it, to Roberto's points, is that you can turn it off too, right? That you're not being locked into all these long-term contracts. So even though I give kind of this annual volume number, and that's also why we try to give that monthly threshold number, because it's what will it take to optimize a campaign, so you can still do it on a smaller basis. The longer you do it, the better you can optimize. But that's one of the other beautiful things about it, is you're not having to lock into this budget, and have jobs that are getting posted regardless of whether you have, any performance. You're not paying if you don't have those jobs posted.
That's huge.
So I love that you brought up the ATS, Roberto, and we all know ATSs as being historically awful user experiences. So not having an ATS, what is that going to be like? So there's a growing focus on the candidate experience and how recruitment technologies such as matching can help improve both the employer and the candidate experience. I know TRACEY and Peter have some opinions on the candidate experience in regards to what we're talking about. TRACEY, what you got?
Yeah, we're sitting on a ton of candidate conversations from the social web that we study every quarter. And I will tell you that candidate sentiment is dropping pretty significantly from last quarter to this quarter. I think it's down 45%, while passion intensity is increasing in the conversations around the job search and applications and all the things that candidates are talking about. And again, this is happening on the public web. It's like 68 million conversations that are happening online about the candidate experience, and they're not having it. So when you start to think about the media that you're placing and the experience that you're creating after that, you're creating, generally speaking, according to the candidates, a very, very disappointing, frustrating, and disengaging experience. So my only advice to everybody right now is they're watching, they're talking, they're shopping, and they're not transacting, because everything that we're doing is turning them away. So it's not just about applicant flow. It's not just about where you're placing your media. It's how you absolutely collect that data, hold that data, and process that data that is creating so much needless friction.
Peter?
I mean, you know, candidates are consumers and they expect a consumer level experience. And frankly, the competition is giving it to them. You know, certainly from a messaging standpoint, you need to make sure you know your audience and you're differentiating yourself. But that being said, you could have the best messaging platform in your space, but if the candidate experience is bad, you're going to lose candidates to those that are able to provide, you know, a more intuitive, consistent, a quick, and maybe even fun candidate experience. You know,
Not impossible.
Yeah, and frankly, you have to make sure that you're also leveraging the tools that you have efficiently and effectively. You know, the other day I was talking to a client and they were talking about how they don't have enough candidates, and they ended up sharing the back end of their ATS, and immediately I saw that there were many, almost 100 candidates that had not been touched, had not been contacted, nothing. And so all over Reddit, like you see it everywhere, like that. Yeah. Everyone understands that there's a general labor shortage and companies are dying for talent, but people are applying and people are not getting a response. And you know, companies just need to understand that understaffed teams lead to bad experiences and can affect brand loyalty. So
yeah. So you say experiences, and it sounds like a lot of people are having a bad experience. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Great Resignation. So not only is it hard to get people in the door, it's hard to keep them. And there's a lot of things going on with candidate psychology, commute times. There are a lot of issues here. Let's go to CARRIE real quick in terms of what you're seeing and your perspective on the Great Resignation, which is scaring the shit out of everybody.
Yeah. So one thing that I try to keep people centered on the fact that it's not just unemployment, just because that's the headlines that we're hearing, right? There's so many other variables. And when we apply business intelligence to that, there's lots of data around this. You know, one thing, I just read a Forbes article yesterday that in August, our quit rate reached 2.9%. So it's the highest the BLS has ever recorded, when 4.3 million people quit their jobs.
Yikes.
And yeah, I know, that's even since we had our chat yesterday. You know, and I do, one of the things though that I have shared with clients is that we know that Gen Z is actually important to take into consideration here, right? We talked about millennials for so long that Gen Z is already on, you know, graduating college and have been for a couple of years. You know, they're fully in the workforce, and they grew up watching their parents lose their jobs and homes during the Great Recession. And then they were on the receiving end as well, watching it happen recently with the pandemic. So the data was already showing us that they were more money motivated than their previous generations pre-COVID. And they weren't nearly as concerned about the perks and the values and the group hug and the beer Fridays or whatever, right? Now, though, we're seeing that since the whole market has shifted, right? The employer is no longer king, and they are starting to seek more of a balance, right, in both money and that quality of life, because they realize employers just haven't been loyal to them. So why should they be loyal to us, right? And I think, you know, there's all the different reasons that we could go into. We don't have the time to do that, but like, I think one of the other really interesting stats that I just saw though too is there was a backlog of people who didn't quit their jobs during the pandemic, and they're doing so now. And they realize now, because they are a little bit more in control, they can hold out for that higher pay. They can, you know, they can walk out and they can go get another job somewhere, which is just exacerbates that need to be able to get through to people quickly and make sure that your process is as efficient and effective as possible.
Yeah. TRACEY, this is your wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Talk
this
to
is,
me.
I mean, this is the data. So, and I can't, I agree with Carrie 100% in spirit, and it's not just money, it's perks. But I will tell you, and looking at the conversation socially happening across the candidate landscape, the top 3 things that are happening in a job search conversation are: number 1, looking, which is 20% of the conversation. Number 2 is quit. Quit is number 2 in the job search conversation. They are quitting. They would like to quit. Number 3, and that's 14%. Number 3 is pay and money at 13%. Pay matters. And all I keep telling all of my customers is, you guys, we have spent the last 20 to 15 years trying to market our way out of a problem. The problem is we don't want to talk about money, and all they want to talk about is money. We are not listening to the candidate audience. That's all I can tell people. You have to start listening. Now, what's interesting about this is that we did lose, I think, 2.2 to 3 million women from the workforce in the last 18 months. So when I started looking at the gender bend of the conversation, right now it is a 55% male dominated conversation. So it skews male. The only time it gets to parity is when you insert the word quit. Then it goes 50-50. So I don't see, and then when you talk about start, it again skews back to 58-42 men. So we have a big problem with attracting and keeping women in the workforce. So we're going to have to start looking at how we serve them better, how we can create more programs that serve women, because again, it's not just getting more volume. It's about getting the right people in the right jobs that are happy and stay.
Any examples in terms of on the female side? And I know childcare has been a huge issue with the pandemic. And, do I go work for a job that's $15 an hour when childcare is $10 an hour? So any examples on what companies are doing of any size to help moms and women manage the current state of the world?
I mean, what we're seeing from our customers that are doing better is they are doing more to offer on-site childcare. They're offering more flexibility. They're deciding that 9 to 5 does not suit everybody when school is 8 to 3. And they're starting to say, hey, maybe you come and get your job done and then take care of your family and then finish when you can. So we're seeing more programs, again, on-site childcare and more flexibility in when, how, and where you work. And that seems to be a big draw, because last quarter, the conversation was really about shift information. They wanted to know if they were going to work evenings or weekends. Shift disappeared this quarter and remote popped up. So they want remote, they want to talk money. In fact, we did see a lift in anytime salary is included in the job description or in the job title. I want to say it was a 35% increase in conversion. So when you are placing your ads, let's let people screen themselves in and out of the money conversation right off the get-go.
Yeah. We just on the show, we talked about the Mom Project just got a bunch of money, a bucket of money in investment. So this is an issue that some vendors are trying to tackle as well. Peter, you have some opinion on the Great Resignation.
I was just going to add on to what TRACEY said is what we're seeing a lot of our education benefits, and not that they were never there, but more promoting those, whether it's, getting your GED or helping out with college. So, which I do think, the bettering yourself and upskilling is also a great part of that conversation. But I mean, TRACEY's right. The labor participation rate, I think that came out yesterday or earlier this week, where, 61%, and the, disproportionality, women are at 57% and men are at 70%. And that is, greatly impacted by the pandemic. But again, I think as, in that conversation of what are those contributing factors that are keeping people away can get political real quick. But, I do think it's just a combination of all those things. But one of the things I will say that I know was kind of like an it was part of the conversation where, you know, the government benefits were keeping people out. We saw that when those government benefits ended, there was not this gigantic rush back in. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't see that in the next couple months, that maybe that does flush itself out. But I think that was an overriding part of the conversation, that it really didn't materialize, but you know, that remains to be seen. I mean,
well, one of the things that I noted last year was that in 2020, there was a 2.4 million net increase of new businesses that were started last year. So of all the businesses that are started on average every year, last year was a net increase of 2.4 million new small businesses. And if I want to put a finer point on it from the report that we're preparing, this is literally a quote from a Reddit user. I'm looking for a job right now. The cost of covering childcare is so much that if I take a crappy job, I'll maybe profit $2 to $3 an hour.
Yeah.
So we have to really sit in their shoes and understand that's what they're doing the math.
Curious, a little bit off script here, but I was surprised to hear nobody mention sort of the gig economy and the alternatives that people have, either to drive an Uber or DoorDash or any of the other alternatives, but also from an employer perspective, right? We see gig platforms where I can get a cook on a platform, and they don't necessarily work for me as an employee, but they can come in and they have experience. Or another company that got a lot of funding recently, I think, was Nomad Health, which sort of has nurses in hospitals moving around on a platform basis. Just any opinion on how companies can, I don't know, take on or benefit from the gig platforms, where frankly a lot of workers are going to, or at least side hustles. A lot of those small businesses, TRACEY, are just one-man shops, get an LLC, right? They're not $10 million in funding. So just any opinion on the gig platform, the gig economy, and how it impacts small businesses, local businesses?
I have 2 points of view on this. One is, I think that the gig economy is very good for those side hustles. I think those gig economy workers are very much about taking up different opportunities to work when they want. It's a flexibility play for them. But I'm seeing a lot of companies talking about starting their own gig economy within their organization. And I just have to go, hey, bro, calm down, because I don't know anybody right now that's working for anybody that goes, ooh, can I have more work? Nobody is saying that right now. So if you have employees and you're thinking about starting like an internal gig economy, just, hit the pause button, because nobody's interested in doing more right now. We all have enough. Like, I keep joking that I'm going to hand out branded water wings at the next conference because we're all drowning. But I do think that there are opportunities for people, for companies to supplement their staff where needed through these gig marketplaces. I think that's great. But if you're talking about doing your own internal,
that's the first time water wings have ever been brought up in a Zoom call for me. Just FYI. Anyone else got an opinion on the gig economy? Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen a couple of things. So I just kind of thinking about this. So I think that the gig economy is good in a way, and it's probably helping those people that are saying, hey, I only net $2 an hour because I have to kind of stay at home and I can't go to kind of quote unquote regular job, but they can supplement it with a gig job potentially, right? Mm-hmm. What we're seeing even from large employers, so I won't name the employer, but an employer we spoke to earlier in the year, they're a big sort of telehealth company, and and with the pandemic, there's been a lot of demand for more mental health professionals, people with psychology degrees, and this company's been innovating because what they're doing is they're hiring people with psychology degrees, people that have their hours, and they can work hourly from home from anywhere, right? All that matters is where they got credentialed. So this is a company that's been growing and thriving because they've, on the demand side for them, they're providing mental health services, but on the supply side, people that are psychologists, a lot of them like working from home at their own pace, whether they're in Spain or in Hawaii, and it's the gig economy is helping these. It's helped this company hire more efficiently and tap into this gig economy.
Gotcha.
Well, I have a customer who's looking at taking their shift workers and opening up shifts internally. So like not every shift works for everybody, right? So in this particular business, most people want to go visit this business in the evening hours when most people want to be with family, and it's hard to get people to schedule in that time to work, despite that that's the chosen profession they've gotten into, which is one of those weird things. But they're starting to think about, okay, you don't have a set schedule, you just book your shifts, right? Or we have demand from customers at these times, who's going to cover them? So I think that there's some interesting technology plays that are being developed around, managing workforce based on their shift preferences.
Gotcha.
That's cool.
Well, going back to programmatic, whether it's a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas, we're all feeling a little pain with higher prices. And I can see a lot of visitors or viewers here saying like, geez, programmatic sounds really expensive, and at the risk of sounding like an infomercial, is it more expensive? Is it a cost that you're just going to have to swallow, or is it less expensive than people think? Roberto, you have some comment or opinion on this.
Yeah, I actually pulled some data after we spoke yesterday. So just kind of looking at kind of a combined cost per click and how much we're seeing cost per clicks. So cost per clicks on average started going down. They started going up in 2019, actually, before the pandemic. So in 2019, the average CPC that I see that we were paying out was about 35 cents. Then if you kind of look at sort of middle of the year, kind of pandemics hit, but it's like sort of subsiding somewhere in the summer of last year, the cost per clicks went up to about 48 cents. And take it as a blended, right? Like the real meaningful data here is per job type, but I'm just giving you kind of the high level numbers. So from 35 cents an average cost of a blended click to 48 cents, I mean, what is that? Like 40 something percent increase in CP in cost per click. And then if you look at now, the cost of clicks are approaching a blended average for us of about 70 cents. So it's another kind of 40-ish% increase. So the cost of a click is going up. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, obviously cheaper clicks are better, but as long as the employer is getting quality applicants, like CARRIE mentioned before, it's fine. And I think programmatic is still a better shot because it still gives you a chance to basically kind of borrowing CARRIE's terminology, spray, but spray intelligently. And that's still a lot better than just posting individually to all these sites and trying to guess where you're going to get the best candidates, right? So the cost is going up, but it's fine. Programmatic in many cases will still be just regular posting on individual sites and sort of betting where you thinking that you know where you're going to get the best candidates.
Does anyone have a sense? Go ahead, CARRIE.
Okay, I was saying it's still the best value for the money that you're going to spend. The money that you're going to spend anyway, do you want to spend it on, X amount of dollars per job board per posting that may net you 0 candidates, may net you 0 views, right? Especially if you have this, that annual contract versus can I put it in the pool where, yes, I'm competing with other companies for that click and that apply, but I know that I'm getting my jobs put on the right job board that I could go directly to myself, but pay a lot more money for, or I can do it through programmatic and I can get the same people from Indeed that I would be getting if I was going directly, or, I might get them on talent.com for a fraction of the cost that I would have gotten them on Indeed because I'm optimizing it through that programmatic play. Like
nice plug for talent.com, CARRIE. I like that.
That wasn't deliberate. I was just thinking that.
So I'm curious, you guys, tracking has always been an issue with big companies. I can't imagine what it's like for small businesses. And I know clicks is a fun way to sort of track something, but do you guys have a good sense of whether it's your own tools or tools that you see helping small businesses really build an ROI around their spend? Or is it all just what I'm spending on a click?
Me personally, with my clients, I mean, it's hard to justify the so what is what I call it with click data, right? Or impression data or view data. What it really comes down to is what's the cost per application and cost per hire by source, right? In small business, we tend to talk fully baked cost for a for a horse for a hire. But you know, what we've done, we had a small business that actually had Jazz HR as our ATS, you know, which is not expensive, you know, but we actually helped them go in and look, and we looked anecdotally. We were able to place pixels, and we were able to eventually get the tracking in place. But over the last 365 days, right, we looked back at just the last 90 days once we had their campaigns running for 3 months, and 55% of their applications had come in that 90-day window in this job market when people are seeing decreasing applications, right? So I think we're very confident, even though we didn't have all of the tracking in place at that point, that we could still tell the right story, that the media was working for them. And, you know, it was just a matter of kind of getting the process in place.
Gotcha. Anyone else on analytics?
Cost per quality. That's all I care about. Cost per quality, who made it to phone screen, and what percentage of applications from that source got to phone screen. That's all. That's what I tell, like, just tell me that percentage. If it's a good percentage, then that's a good source. It's delivering good quality people that are passing that initial recruiter screen sniff test to earn a call.
But I think the key to get there, to Tracy's point, is looking at conversion data. So that's where the majority of that tracking comes in, right? So because the volume of applications, again, don't always tell the story, but if I can see what's my conversion point between how many applications I got versus who got submitted for an interview, et cetera, that's where we're going to start to get to that quality score.
Peter?
Can get better over time. So, you know, you need to be a little patient. You let the platforms and the folks and the rules and everything work in those campaigns, because you see after you're up for a little bit, the performance tends to get better and better and better and more efficient.
I want to jump to the term hyperlocal for a second, and I think we should sort of clarify what that means. Is it within my block? Is it a 1 mile radius, 10-mile radius? I mean, just because I'm advertising on my local newspaper site, is that hyperlocal? I don't know. Mike, what's sort of your sense on what hyperlocal is, how it contributes to sort of a successful high volume program?
Sure. So hyperlocal it's defined as being specific to the individual that you're recruiting for. So it can be down to the block if it's a gas station, or usually it's within a defined number of miles from the employer for a small business. For high volume, it depends on what sort of position you're recruiting for. If it's hospitality, high volume hospitality, single location, you may expand the definition of hyperlocal. It can be anywhere down to the street level. I mean, you can target mobile advertising to mobile phones and around the competitor that you're trying to recruit from. It tends to mean within the general geographic area in terms of programmatic advertising, but we can dial it up and down as narrow as the street or as broad as 100 miles.
And sort of to jump back into candidate experience, I love the highlight of the phone and mobile. And I think we sort of forget, as we said on our Apple laptops, that most of the world is mobile, particularly in this space. So in terms of the candidate experience and mobile, anybody have some tips if you're marketing your jobs of, you know, how to apply on your mobile? Obviously, you know, text messaging is huge. Chat bots are, you know, the coolest thing that the kids are talking about today. What are you guys seeing in terms of mobile apply and candidate experience on this SMB level? And anybody can chime in.
Well, I mean, I've been a huge fan of mobile just from the days of being an AT&T and being a mobile company. And by God, we better be first to getting the mobile apply process in place. But especially with people that are not sitting at their computers, like the collision repair, right? People out in the field and that are, we do a lot of geofencing for those types of situations where, mobile ad targeting. So you can do just your Google display through mobile, right? And just the main thing is just doing what you can to get in front of the candidate where they are. And that's where it doesn't, a lot of people think text messaging and that's expensive. Having a landing page and doing some mobile ads, mobile display ads, and just being able to get in front of them while they're playing their game on their break or they're on Facebook on their break, is kind of really where we tend to focus a lot of the kind of table stakes conversations around that.
So in perspective, I know CARRIE and Roberto and Peter, all you guys know the analytics around mobile. What kind of traffic percentage are mobile? What kind of percentage of applications now are mobile? I know 5-10 years ago it was over 50. I assume it's really high now. Any perspective on that?
I will say this, and I will defer to someone else. The last couple of times I had looked at it, I've kind of seen it fluctuate a lot because so many people are at home, right? And we have such a high percentage of people that are working remotely now that I've seen through our kind of just client data a big increase back to desktop. But for those field positions, that type of stuff, yes, we see quite a bit of mobile, but I'm going to refrain from giving actual statistics and see if anybody else has anything on that one.
So
I'll chime in and just say that what I have seen is the percentage or the applicant apply rate for desktop has actually shrunk. The percentage, so maybe the volume is still either rising, but the actual conversion rate is going down, and the mobile rates are continuing to go up. So I'm not talking numbers either. I'm just talking sheer conversion rates of desktop versus mobile. We've seen mobile continue to grow, and we've seen the conversion rate of desktop applicants go down.
Gotcha.
Hey, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, that's a great question. I know we have data. So after this call, the next thing I'm going to do is ask for some data, because this is cool and something I need to be looking at regularly, because it's just really good to know. But the other thing that I'll say is this is, and CARRIE, I didn't know you were at AT&T, but I remember before, like with After College, my previous company, we were working with the Obama administration on this kind of Summer Jobs Plus initiative, and it was about sort of giving underprivileged kids like a leg up so they can get summer jobs, because if you can get kids summer jobs, that was sort of one of the things that contributed to kind of a rebound in the economy. And one of the big things is, like not all of us could afford like the shiny new MacBook Pro, right? And most of us are on cell phones. So having just even a mobile friendly place for somebody to apply helps in sort of decreasing that sort of income inequality gap, right? So mobile apply, if we talk about diversity, if we talk about inclusion,
It's the great equalizer.
There's no excuse to not having a mobile presence, right? Because not everyone's going to have, Joel, like you said, that the MacBook Airs or the MacBook Pros.
Absolutely.
And the fact is, the email open rates are like below 15%, 5%, and text message open rates are 98, 99%.
Yep.
Well, pause. So this is one of those things that currently gets me on my soapbox. So we have trained.
What doesn't get you on your soapbox?
That's a good point.
We have trained job seekers to ignore our emails. Every email that comes to a job seeker comes from a do not reply email address. So, and they come in infrequently, they are just spammy in nature. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that is continuing to plummet. And if we do not take seriously the text responses that we get back and then continually respond to candidates, we will train them to ignore our texts too. So that's something to pay close attention to. And in looking at one of my clients' data, I didn't, this is not an aggregate. So mobile visitors in the last month were 3 times as many users visited via mobile that over desktop. So it was 3x for every 4 visitors, 3 came from mobile, 1 came from desktop. But the weird thing for me is that if they're on desktop, they're visiting almost twice as many pages and shopping content. If they're visiting on mobile, they are not looking at as much content. So all the content budgets are getting wasted when they are looking at a mobile.
So you're saying the resume black hole isn't exclusive to email. That's good. That's good to know. All right, let's jump to something we've talked a little bit about: newspapers and geo-targeting, geofencing, et cetera. Virtual job fairs are something that have blossomed in the pandemic. And for me personally, thank goodness, right? Like, who wants to be at a germy face-to-face handshake and high-five and, face-to-face job fair when you can do it from the comforts of your living room? Any Care, I know you have some opinions on virtual job fairs, maybe best practices, case studies, solutions that you would recommend. What's your take on the blossoming of virtual job fairs?
I'm seeing, I had to rethink this a little bit since we chatted yesterday, because really I'm seeing more of a hybrid of virtual and in-person job fairs, right? And we're like, one of the very first ones that we had to think about was because so many of these smaller businesses that also have in-person roles came online with their jobs quicker, and they had to find a quick way to get in front of people. So we actually did virtual advertising, but then to a drive-up job fair, and with hiring managers in the shop where they could see everything, and then we've got other clients that are actually using the programmatic advertising to do the majority of the advertising for their events, because as long as you're driving them to a landing page or call to action outside of Indeed, because they changed their platform again, but and one client in particular, they're super high volume, and they're having ongoing events and office hours type setups, and they're using those as the fastest way to just get in front of job seekers. And they've gone all in so much that I mentioned this to our smaller group yesterday. They're kind of putting the slogan out there of meet us today and start tomorrow, because these are entry-level jobs, and they've got to be the fastest company to get to these people, because if they wait too many days and they have a backlog, those folks are gone. They've already accepted a job somewhere else.
Gotcha. Mike, I'll give you a minute on virtual job fairs. Go. What's
interesting is that the old West Tech job fairs just made its way online, for those old people that remember West Tech. But I mean, it's really very true. Carrie's exactly right. I mean, it just helps you get in front of more people faster and be more responsive. And it's a way to connect with people whose schedules may depend on where their kids are that day, and so it gives more freedom for the job seeker, which is the more barriers you can take down for the job seeker, the faster you'll be able to get them through your cycle. So we have about 2 minutes left. Our last topic is sort of ATSs for the SMBs. I think Roberto, you mentioned, they're not even using ATSs. Maybe they're looking to move away from the spreadsheet. What are some of the takeaways of small businesses and the relationship with ATSs? Should they use them? What should they be looking at using? I know some that we talked about were Homebase, Breezy HR, and Fountain. But Roberto, on the ATS side, what's some of your takeaways and recommendations?
So I differ more sort of the experts on the call, but so what we're seeing is about half of our job volume is email apply, and it's either because they're too small that they don't have an ATS, or they have an ATS and they just hate it, so they still prefer email apply. But the majority of the cases is it's they don't have an ATS. So, and I know we're basically one of the ways we're approaching the SMB space, because as you get bigger, you do need an ATS, and some of these employers are working with an ATS. So what we're working on at Recruitology is working with ATSs that are sort of working with more kind of the M's as opposed to the S's in the SMB space, and trying to offer programmatic in their recruiter flow, so that somebody's using like a Breezy HR or a Fountain or a Homebase, instead of kind of having to go somewhere else and say, okay, I want to plug my jobs into this programmatic solution. Our ideal world of the view is, or our ideal view of the world is that they can basically be in their ATS and they can just easily boost a job and get the candidates they need. So that's the experience we're trying to create for the recruiter, the in-house recruiter, in partnership with the ATSs. So I would say I'm ATS agnostic, just because we're trying to partner with all the ATSs, and I think the ones that think about how do you make it stupid simple for the employer, where they don't have to think about what button to click or what tab to go to, they win. You know, that's my kind of dumb, kind of high level view of the ATS world.
Here, I'll give you 15 seconds. SMBs and ATSs.
Me?
Yeah. Do you want to pass?
I don't know anybody that loves their ATS, and so a lot of what we're doing is trying to figure out ways still to augment around them. So I can't, a lot of them will still do distribution of jobs. I don't know any that have actually figured out how to partner from a programmatic perspective.
Are you pushing them to CRMs or other options? Or...
Yeah, I mean, even just a landing page, you can do a landing page and a lead capture, and at least give your, an automated way for recruiters to work recs in real time, and they're not stuck in somebody's email inbox. Like, that's the biggest way that we've seen people kind of work around it, but it's still, it's still not ideal, but it's effective.
Gotcha. Google Drive. Tracy, 30 seconds. You get the last word.
Oh, always.
Oh, God. I'm with Carrie. Nobody loves their ATS. I do remember the days of managing someone's Lotus Notes emails of all the resumes. The fact of the matter is that applicant tracking systems were built for organizations, not for people, which is why they don't use them.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Our hour is up. I am Joel Cheesman. Special thanks to Roberto, Carrie, Peter, Tracy, Mike, Ward. I don't know if we have time for questions or if we're done, but that's the show.
Thanks, Joel.
Does anybody have any questions before everybody starts to bounce?
I missed the first half hour. Could you repeat that?
It's fun.
Okay, so here's what happens.
Yeah.
This was fun, guys.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joel, for leading
thank you
that
for-
conversation. Carrie, Roberto, Tracy, Peter, Mike, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Really appreciate your insights. And look on LinkedIn. I've been live tweeting and quoting you all as we've been going through today. So I hope I got it all right. Thank you so much for doing this session with us
Thank
today.
you for having
Wendy.
us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.